This week, we heard from both Republicans and Democrats in the state legislature say that the other side held up important legislation or took up time on partisan issues. Many headlines in local media use the word bitter to describe the politics this year. We invited some former state lawmakers to provide analysis and reaction to the outcomes of this year's 60-day session. So we welcome Janice Arnold-Jones, former Republican state representative, Dee Dee Feldman, former Democratic state senator, Eric Griego to her left, former Democratic state senator, and across the other side of the table, Daniel Foley, a line regular and Republican and former House Minority Whip.
Yes.
Daniel, start with you with that fist in the air. Should we have been surprised at the contentiousness of what happened in this session? I use the word bitter that's been thrown about. That's easy after the fact, but was this a great surprise given what was going on?
Not at all.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a surprise. So here's the things you've got. You've got clearly a Republican governor, whether you agree with her or disagree with her, has a plan. She just won a resounding re-election. The first time in 60 plus years Republicans capture the House and now they're in charge. So in the House you've got Democrats going from having to actually get things done to actually playing defense. Republicans going from playing defense to playing offense. Right. The Senate, was kind of up in the air. People weren't sure, was it going to be that conservative Senate from years past? Was it going to be the independent Senate? Was it going to be a divisive Senate? So I think going into this year, there was no doubt that this would be a contentious session, that there would be a lot of political stuff going on. You've got a lot of new members, and the new members you had were Republicans that just won an election. So I think that you could see that it was setting the stage for it to be a pretty tough battle.
And Janice, good to see you, by the way, and how it played out. Again, no great surprise, but in the mechanics of getting stuff passed. Did the bitterness get in the way markedly a little bit? Did it overwhelm everything? What happened there?
No, if you look at the numbers, the average numbers of bills have passed. Now, did more pass in the last couple of days than is usual? Only by a little bit.
Okay.
So the truth is it wasn't that different. But I do believe that early on, the lines were drawn. The governor said she wanted these things.
Sure.
The Senate in particular said, especially with regard to right to work, nothing doing. The part, however, that was lost, and perhaps it was because there were so many new members, is many of us who were there to serve the state of New Mexico worked around the edges, and there were really important bills that got through because they weren't contentious, and you built agreement.
Sure.
That may have been lost.
Gotcha. We'll talk about a big agreement that got lost at the end of this as well. Your sense of how the things went. Again, it's okay to have opposition. It's set up for opposition. You know what I mean? It's okay at the end of the day.
Well, no, it's constitutionally set up so there is tension.
Right.
And it's not just between Republicans and Democrats, but it's also between the House and the Senate.
Right.
And you saw that at the end of the session, and that also is typical. What you didn't see was the tension between, I think, the agreement between the House and the Senate in opposition to the governor, which is also something that has existed historically in the New Mexico legislature. So, there were bipartisan bills, but they were crushed. Some of them were crushed in the House. Some of them were Senate bills, the driver's license bill and a couple of others that were then crushed by the House. So it was not unusual, but unfortunate.
That's a good way to put it. Eric, you've been following along clearly, but transition us into the biggest contention point, which was the capital outlay dust up. It seemed like everything we're talking about here sort of led up to that moment where things just couldn't quite gel. Maybe you guys can throw in on that as well, but take us through that.
That one was, I think if there's one indication of how dysfunctional the session was, that seems to be the bill where everybody agrees, mostly because a lot of the work gets done ahead of time. The Senate version was almost unanimous. It was a bipartisan bill. It was sent over to the House with plenty of time for them to act on it, and unfortunately, they sort of, I heard from some Senate members that the House Republicans didn't even put in their request. There's a whole process to put your projects in and make sure some projects you've been working on in there, and they delayed it and they missed a couple of deadlines. So it really was this brinksmanship, and this is something that everybody agrees probably next to the budget, the most important thing. This is what has to be done for job. $264 million. These are senior centers. These are healthcare facilities. These are a lot of things. But more importantly, they're economic activity for the state. And so I think if there's one thing that you have to put squarely in the lap of the Republican leadership in the House, it's the failure to send over a viable capital outlay bill, 15 minutes, and to complain they didn't pass it in 50 minutes when they amended it wholesale, I think is just, they've got to own up to that one. You can blame the Democrats for some other bills that didn't make it, but in this one, I think it's squarely with the House Republicans.
Let me go diagonally across. Where does the fault lie?
Well, I mean, the fault is with all the legislators. There's no doubt. But the senator obviously is wrong again. And this it's not a Republican Democrat thing. It's always a battle when it comes to expenditure bills about where they start, who crafts them, what you get, what you do, how the machinations come out, and we had this tension when I was in the legislature, and the D's were in charge of the House and the Senate. So now you insert the R's in charge of one and the D's in charge of the other, you can just heighten the expectation for there to be a battle line drawn on capital outlay. Capital outlay is something that is important. There's no doubt about it. Having Representative Rule in New Mexico, it's crucial. I mean, there's water systems that aren't going to get fixed. There's schools that need repair. There's a million things out there that this money needs to be addressed to have done to it. And it should have happened, but I don't agree necessarily with Senator Grego very much to the extent that I think that, I think the Senate kept it close to the vest. I think the Senate knew this was going to be an opportunity. In the past, this is a huge chit. This is a huge tool that you can use. The longer you hold it, the more you get people in line. And I think that it was a play on both sides to try to keep it. They realized as the session went on, everybody was losing more and more power. We saw fights over things like region appointments that most people are like, I mean, who really is focused that much? And the only thing that left that all of this came down to, the 0 hour was capital outlay.
That's right. Is it fair, Janice, though, what Eric mentioned about the amendments in 20 minutes to go, bringing it over to the Senate? Is that a fair charge?
Well, I would have been whining about it because you do have some choices towards the end of the session. Could you have sent it over, heard it, and sent it over the night before? That is true. They were following what came up on the bill, but you get down to the end of the session and there are certain things that you have to do. And so if the budget came in and it was way down on the list, I'm sorry, you change the rules and you change the agenda and you move it up. But I do think there were some things that were very unfortunate, and I think it is fair to say that the capital outlay goes three ways. It is not only the Senate, it is the House, it is also the executive. And as we were talking as we came in today, the issue of Santa Teresa, and the fact that we may be losing that opportunity because we can't seem to pave the roads that belong to us is unfortunate. And I was just down there, and here it is in the front page of the paper, but that was included in what the House did. It was also interesting that the House members who had not submitted, they just simply carved out and said, whatever's left over, it's about $22 million, that's going to be divided among the House members. And when you get out of time, you do things like that. But capital outlay.
Is it a leadership issue that it was allowed to get to that point in your view?
Well, I think
somebody has to control these things, yes? Somebody has to control the clock, so to speak.
Well, and I think the leadership, I cannot say enough good things about how Don Tripp managed the House of Representatives. It was timely, bills were heard in order, it was transparent. I loved all of that, but I do think the inexperience of not only the Republican members, don't forget there were many new Democratic House members who didn't know how this worked, and they also missubmitted capital outlay.
That's interesting. We had representatives, as we always do, two from the Senate, one from the House, to go to the governor, tell her that business had been finished. And there was an interesting quote from Senator Jerry Ortiz y Pino that the governor was not terribly happy, and laying it all at the Senate's feet. Is the Senate to blame here, Senator Feldman?
The Senate is not to blame. Those unfortunate senators were a victim of bad timing. I mean, these are really ceremonial tasks that people go up to the governor's office and say, okay, we're done. And, then she lost it. But the point is that the Senate passed a capital outlay bill. It was a bipartisan capital outlay bill, and it was passed in time for the House to act on it, and the House did not act on it. They inserted $45 million worth of the governor's projects. The governor should have been working with the Senate in advance in order to avoid this train wreck. It is the leadership.
What could she have
that
done? What could she
is-
have-
Well,
That's an interesting point, but what could she
completely
have done
disagree.
differently?
The Senate took capital outlay and said, we're going to do this. They don't take the input from other people. It happens every time. The House has done it in the past also, don't get me wrong. And the Senate said, we're going to produce a capital outlay bill. Here you go. And the House got it, and the House said, oh my gosh, we've got to figure out the House portion. We got to figure out what's working with the Senate. Oh, and we realized that the Senate didn't take care of the executive like you're supposed to. It's supposed to be done a third, a third, and a third. This is why I've advocated from day one the capital outlay should be total parity, unbelievably parity. It should be whatever the third that goes to the Senate is divided up amongst the senators, whatever goes to the House divided amongst the House and the governor. In my opinion, this whole pomp and circumstance about having hearings about capital outlay projects that everybody at this table knows has nothing to do with the outcome of capital outlay. What decides is when Representative Foley says, I want my money spent here, that's where my money goes. And if we just removed the curtain and we're honest and said, we got 100 million, 33 and a third here, 33 and a third here, 33 and a third here. Go get it fixed and do what needs to be done. That's the way it works. But the Senate believes, as Senator Feldman's telling you, that they should divide up all 100% of it because they know
that's
better
not
than
what I
everybody
said.
else.
That is
Well,
not
here's,
what I
here's,
said.
the, pro-
That's
here's
the
the problem. What, these guys are brand new, and I think this is an important lesson for the House leadership. Is They're brand new. This is their maiden run. I think there was enormous, not just on this issue, on an enormous amount of hubris in the leadership. And in this particular case, we always get a capital bill. I mean, it's happened, you can count on one hand the number of times it hasn't happened. If there's one thing
twice, that's right,
they agreed upon. So to me, I think if I were Nate Gentry, I would, I think you have a lot of, you have some splaining to do because.
And let me ask you this on that point. I'm going to steal an extra 30 seconds here to our booth. This is so good. It leaves the New Mexico taxpayer going, okay, I hear you all if you're watching this show, but it still didn't happen.
Yeah,
nothing happened.
You know what's
There's a
unfortunate about
leadership
that?
problem
The
or
only thing
something.
more unfortunate than it not happening is the governor coming out so strongly saying we don't want a special session. So there were times we didn't pass a budget.
Right.
The governor calls you right back
That's
for
right.
2 days,
Yeah.
and she's saying, unfortunately, we're not going to do this.
But the legislature could call itself back.
Right.
You can have an
Three-fifths.
the
Once.
legislature.
Once
The
in
legislature
history,
can
that
Should we have a
itself back.
special for this capital outlay
Absolutely.
stuff?
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, you got to let it all settle down. I don't think the governor should have answered no. We're not having a special session right away. Most governors say, "Give me 60 days to see what's happening."
Yeah.
I think there may be an opportunity. The governor will step back and say, "You know what? We probably should look at this again." But I think that to put this at the feet of the Republican leadership, I think that the Republican leadership did a phenomenal job in the House trying to keep the trains on time when they had unbelievable opposition fighting them from day one, especially on the Senate side.
Up next, could changes in gun policies save lives here in New Mexico?